Most people, the way they list the beneficiaries, they just say 1/3 each.
Oh.
Well, if there's only 2 left, then
where's that out of the third?
The other one gets cut out. Welcome to Wealth Creator Radio, where we help people overcome the uncertainty of having enough retirement income. I'm your host, Eric Heckman, a certified financial planner with over 30 years of experience. We want you to enjoy life and not have to wonder where your money will come from and how long it'll last. My mission is to show you how to develop a personalized income plan so you can retire more and have worry less wealth. Here at Wealth Creator Radio, we cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. We understand that the world of retirement planning can be filled with confusing products, ever-changing tax laws, and volatile markets. That's why we're here to help successful people like you navigate the uncertainty and create a blueprint for a thriving, work-optional life.
Today, we're talking about the American dream. Not lavish wealth and luxury, but the things that we all grew up wanting in our lives. You know, a house, maybe a couple of kids, a new car, a vacation once a year. Many of us grew up with parents who did have a life a lot like that. But here we are in 2024. How attainable is it? Today, that's what we're going to discuss with Eric Heckman. He's going to tell us about some new findings concerning the cost of this once common lifestyle, how a new generation could possibly prepare to attain it, and whether or not the American dream is still worth believing in today. Here's our phone number as we start off our show with Eric. He is a certified financial planner at Heckman Financial, president there, 800-454-1184. You may call that number. You may text that number. If you text the word visit and get on his calendar. That simple. It is a complimentary appointment. Another thing you can do is transform your retirement worries into confidence and get the complimentary toolbox that we offer every single week. It includes Eric's book that he has written, plus other educational materials. Just text that word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Remember, check out our podcast every Tuesday. It comes out. So if you don't get to hear this whole show, or if you want to listen to past episodes, just check that out wherever you get podcasts. Search for Wealth Creator Radio. And Eric, so excited to get started with you today.
Yeah, Luann, it's a good thing to be talking about as the year draws to a close and people are thinking about gifting and other stuff, and they're thinking about their kids and all that. So it's good to be talking about the American dream.
So tell us about this new research that we have in front of us, the cost of the American dream, Eric.
Yeah, well, American dreams, it's what everybody kind of wants for the next generation, which, is basically to, ideally, of course, own your own home and be able to raise your kids and, put them through college and, enjoy life, right? Have some vacations and have some fun and, just doing what you're wanting to be doing, right? So Investopedia website, they did the math and they said that now takes $4.4 million to achieve all those things over your lifetime. So,
my gosh.
But that's also kind of a slightly goofy thing to say because it's around over somebody's lifetime, so 60, 70 years. Well, you do spend a lot more money if you're looking that long a timeline, right? So, so it is. It's not like you need it all at once, right? So
are there steps then that younger people can try to take to still achieve important milestones like we all dream of?
Yeah, well, I mean, for people, really what they need to be doing is, putting some of that money away, right? Because that figure, $4.4 million figure is a lot of money over your timeline, right? Over your whole life. The top 10% of households have a net worth of $3.8 million, so they're probably doing it. But for a lot of people, it might be out of reach. But again, I don't want to be make it sound too depressing because it is something that's possible if you save and you have a plan. When you just put some money away, that money should, if you know the rule of 72, which means if you divide 72 by an interest rate, that's how often it takes to double. And so if you just average 7%. 50,000 today would be then 100, 200, 400, and it goes on. So, if you're putting that money away early enough, then you might be able to do this. But again, you got to have a plan, right? And, it's even more critical on the way out. How are you going to make it through all those retirement milestones and how you can make sure your retirement's nice and hopefully have something there left for the kids, right, to make their journey a little bit easier. So, that's what we do here at Heckman Financial is really help people make that shift from working life into retirement life. And, so that if one of the things we've set up is a lot of educational materials, we've got, will your money last as long as you do? Are you paying too much money in taxes? A digital copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. You can get all of that in a free download. And all you have to do is, to get the link, is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download it directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Now, Eric, well, first of all, I want to thank you, everybody, for listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. So happy that you're spending part of your day with us. Thank you for that. All right, so Eric, if you think about milestones through someone's life, owning a home, raising children, putting them through college, purchasing cars, going on vacation, maybe paying for a wedding or two, and then pets, and then retirement, and then unfortunately, the end game, a funeral. How do those different costs break down as far as milestones go?
Yeah, well, for people not in the Bay Area, they say owning a home's $930,000, so that's
Wow.
pretty cheap.
Wow.
But a lot more around here, of course, and cost of raising two kids plus college is $830,000 supposedly, but I don't know. My got third one in college right now, and all of them have been at the 150-200,000 mark just for the college part. So, and those are state colleges; those aren't even fancy private ones.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. That one might be there, might be not there. Kind of the crazy one actually on this study, because it has you owning a car from 29 to 74, and it says the total cost of owning a car is $800,000. So so maybe don't buy so many and let them go a little bit longer, right?
Yeah.
The cost of all those yearly vacations throughout that whole time is $180,000. So that's pretty crazy. And spending $36,000 on your pets.
That's
I think
crazy.
That number's probably actually going up for a lot of people.
It might.
But the biggest one they say is actually retirement at $1.6 million on average. Is how much people spend throughout their retirement, right? So these aren't lump sums that you pay up front, right? This is stuff you pay over time. And that's where they come up with that $4.4 million number. So, the bigger part is really, I think, the focus on is each next milestone, right? And are you saving up? Are you putting money away to it? And are you always putting money away to retirement? I mean, you should be doing that from day one, at least a little bit, just to make sure you've got enough time there to have that compound and grow.
So are there steps then that younger people can take to still try to achieve these milestones?
Yeah, I mean, it's really more about how are you going to save correctly, right? So where are you going to put your money in the right spots? It's not about being an influencer and keeping up with everybody else, right? Do you really need all that, all those extra toys and gadgets and, stuff that people waste money on, right? So being a little smart about your money, first and foremost, have that 3 to 6 months of savings built up. Always be funding ideally the Roth 401k, and getting that match from your employer at least as a minimum. And then, once you've built up enough money in savings, start building up some money in actual investments. Don't put quite as much in your 401k or in such, because if you need to go get that money for some of those milestones, it's all locked up in there, right? So, we want to have some of that money available and then start maxing out that retirement plan. But, that's kind of the order that people should be doing is savings first, getting the match for ideally with the Roth 401k option. And then, secondly, build up some money on your own that you have access to. And then once you've got enough there, go back to, funding the retirement more. And, a lot of people just don't do it that way. And they don't, really pay attention to how are they going to get this American dream, right? And how are they going to achieve it? People are saying it's more and more out of reach, but it's really all based on you, right? It's all based on you putting money away, you saving, you taking the time out. And, 70% of Americans don't have any sort of written plan. They don't have a plan to how to get there. And so if you don't have a plan, you're going to get someplace, but not the place you meant to go. So that's what we do here at Heckman Financial with the blueprint to worry less wealth. We help people do that shift from working life into work optional retirement life. And we help them with that, first and foremost, that income plan. Then we look at the investments to set up that income, the taxes along the way, healthcare issues, and then who's going to get your money when you're gone. So those are the 5 areas that everybody needs to take action on and really, have a plan for and make sure you're going to be there. So all you have to do to get access to a lot of this data and a lot of this great reports is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Are you approaching retirement and worried about taxes eating into your hard-earned savings? Then join Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial for a special tax event where you'll learn crucial strategies to minimize your tax bill in retirement. On Wednesday, November 13th or Thursday, November 14th at 6:30 p.m., head to the Santa Clara Maywood Community Center for Eric's comprehensive workshop on taxes in retirement. Discover how to decrease Medicare costs, minimize taxation on your Social Security benefits, and position yourself for better returns on your investments, all in the most tax-efficient way possible. RSVP today at wealthcreator.com/events. That's wealthcreator.com/events. Don't miss out on this opportunity to potentially save yourself thousands of dollars in taxes during retirement. Book your seat now for this special event with Eric Heckman. wealthcreator.com/events. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Luann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. It's easy to make assumptions about what's going to go into a legacy plan, right? But Eric is here to help make it even clearer for you as we dive into the basics of creating a lasting legacy for your family. Eric, tell us some of the basic questions we should be asking ourselves on this topic.
Yeah, well, there's obviously lots of stuff that goes around this. Not stuff that people always like to think about, right?
True, yeah.
Nobody ever wants to talk about, I might die someday. No, it's not might. It's so far guaranteed.
Yeah.
So first of all, fix that language situation. So it is something you need to plan for, because if you don't, it's just more of a mess that you left for somebody.
Yeah.
And so, one of the first things to do is just talk to your loved ones, because lots of times I have people that say, this person's, my son or my daughter is going to really want my house. And then you talk to them like, no, I'm not going to move back there, and it's like, well, hold it. What are you, you're trying to fix it up for them and do, so that'd be one thing, is just literally once you start doing this discussion, talk with your with your kids and, family members and stuff to see if what they want. And the biggest critical thing is really having, first of all, making sure your beneficiaries are right. That's a big one. We find errors all the time. And especially when a lot of these companies merge or take over stuff, it's amazing how many times we find stuff that just drops, just gets lost. So sometimes your 401k at work may change companies. Well, definitely a good time to check check that, the beneficiary. And then, if you own real estate's the only asset that you can't really put any beneficiary on. So that's when you really need to go get a living trust, because a living trust basically acts like a funnel. It says where your stuff's supposed to go and who's supposed to get it. In a way, it's kind of like a corporation where it doesn't die when you die. It just means somebody else is the trustee, somebody else is the beneficiary of it, and so forth. So that'd be the first thing, is just getting all the paperwork right, making sure you have the right names on there. We just recently ran across one person's account that somehow had no beneficiaries. We've had other ones where they have, 3 kids, but 2 were listed. You're like, what? Were you mad at the one kid? Right. So sometimes it's just, paperwork error, or, maybe it was another screen and they forgot to enter it, things like that. And we have seen plenty of, X's be listed, and there's a ton of case law that says who's ever on the paperwork, that's the person who gets the money, even if they weren't supposed to get the money. So it is something that
dang,
that you want to be, careful on, and you want to update it. You don't have to do it obviously every single year necessarily, but this is something that anytime you have any major life changes, obviously marriage, divorce, things like that, you also want to make sure that your kids and their kids are included.
Yeah,
So one thing is, like for me, I've got 3 sons. Well, none of them have kids yet, but if say my oldest son Owen had a child and say I passed away maybe at the same time with him, or
Right.
maybe he passed away first or whatever,
Uh-huh.
I would still want his kid to get his share.
Sure.
But most people, the way they list the beneficiaries, they just say 1/3 each.
Oh.
Well, if there's only 2 left, then
where's that out of the third?
The other one gets cut out, and that's not usually what you want. So there's actually a funky little thing called purse sturpies, which I always think sounds like a disease.
It's a funny name, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like stripes, but it's sturpies. It's spelled slightly different. And what that basically means is, if you mark that box, a lot of companies now have this box. They haven't had it for probably only about the last 10 years. I've seen a lot of companies use it. And so this purse sturpies thing, what that does is it says that money would go to anybody in that lineal descendant. So if they do have kids, the kids get it. If they don't have kids, it goes back to where it would have been anyways, right? The 1/3 shares get split to 1/2, and the other 2 get the half. So it's a super easy box that you can check, and boom, you're just done, right? So, but it's this little knowledge, it's little things, and if your financial advisor is not talking to you about this, it can really mess up what your plans are, what your wishes are. And, nobody wants to be rolling around in the grave, I guess, right?
Yeah, I always say that.
But
she'd be rolling in her grave if she knew that. Yeah,
right, exactly. So no, but I mean that's the simple things to fix. And again, this is. I mean, I have one client that for almost 30 years now, I have a letter from 1998 in his file saying, "Go get your trust and will set up," and still hasn't done it. His kid's now grown and out of the house, and so it doesn't take long. But ironically for him, when his parents passed away, it was a kind of a mess with his siblings, and it's like you'd think that open up his eyes to make sure he gets his right.
Yeah, right.
but still, lots of times people don't do it. So it's just one of those things where, okay, just take the time, get it going, and, get those things set up. And then, maybe every 5 years, you got to check out stuff. Or obviously, if you're changing accounts or moving stuff, you want to look at all that. But, again, we've set up a lot of great tools in our digital toolbox, so how to make sure your money lasts as long as you do, Social Security decisions. My book, Worry Less Wealth, does go into a whole part about legacy and all that stuff. That's a free download there. Or you can also set up a time to talk with us. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text word toolbox, 800-454-1184. Or you can download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And you are listening to Wealth Creator Radio with Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial. Eric, why don't you kind of go through, everything you've said so far actually talks about, having benefits of this legacy plan, but walk us through some of the specific strategies that a legacy plan will help.
Yeah, well, a lot of things that'll, figure out hopefully some of the tax liabilities, or especially the legal liabilities. So, the cost of probate can be tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and that's just to go prove what you had in a will, or if you didn't have a will, who gets what. So that can all get, just bypassed with a living trust. So that's why you want one of those. And also beneficiaries, anything with beneficiaries skips that whole process too. So that's one easy way. You can also make sure that people get the right assets so they know, like right now with the tax laws now, with the inherited IRAs, when you inherit your parents' IRA, you have 10 years to basically spend that money. And if they were old enough to have to be taking out required minimum distributions, you have to take some money out every year. But by the end of that 10th year, you have to have it all spent. Well, that was kind of like a tax increase, because it used to be able to spend that over 30 years. So if you have to spend it over 10, that's a lot more tax to pay quicker.
Yes.
So that's one of the things you just have to plan for. Obviously, if you're inheriting some of that, make sure you're doing it all right. Make sure you do the paperwork right. One little error, and the IRS has no forgiveness on this stuff. You might owe all the tax today. So that's pretty bad. And then the other parts really would be, probably the hardest part is the family disputes. And the funniest part, which we've talked about on the show in the past, is just goofy stuff like grandma's shoes.
Oh, yeah.
I had one
So funny.
set of families where one teenage daughter went in there, grabbed some of grandma's shoes, and before the other one had a chance to look at them, and they got mad. And grandma's a client of mine, and she didn't have fancy footwear, so
That's
I don't even know why
hilarious.
this is a fight, right?
Yeah.
And probably the other big one that always stands out to me is the time when I had 4 siblings. One of them was my client, inherited a house that was worth $800,000. So pretty easy math, right? They all sell it. They each get 200,
Sure.
except for one was living there and one just got divorced. So the divorced one moved in with the sibling. And so now half of them are living in it, half aren't. And so
The other half, they want their money.
If you do the voting there, right, it's a stalemate.
Yeah, true.
And so it took the divorced one about a year and a half before his divorce was settled, where he could go get a loan to pay off the other 2.
Oh my gosh.
So that just kind of breeds resentment and ill will and stuff. And I mean, probably the smartest thing to do is, put some rules in there, put stuff in your trust about how you want the things handled, but also for any sentimental stuff. I mean, a lot of times it's stuff that people would throw out,
True,
it might be junk. It might be very meaningful for your family. And so, let people know, okay, I want this, and put it in writing, take a picture of it and say, this goes to that person.
Yes.
If you got a picture of it and inside the trust, it's pretty hard to fight. Right. So, so that'd be the things to do. And then let the other ones know that person just claimed that. Right. So,
exactly.
So a lot of it's just talking, communicating, and then planning ahead. And it takes a tiny bit of time. I won't lie there, but once you get it done, again, every 5 to 10 years is really when you have to update this. So it's not super hard to do, but again, if that's something you want to talk about a little bit, what things to be thinking about, what financial stuff that you need to be thinking about, as part of that, you can just set up a time to talk with me, Eric Heckman. All you have to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit 800-454-1184, or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Thinking about healthcare costs, long-term care expenses, and income needs in retirement? How will you afford it all? And what can you do now to help ensure your loved ones will be okay when you're gone? Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial has access to tools and strategies that can help you pursue your retirement dreams without taking on too much risk with your money. Interest rates are the highest they've been in decades, so take advantage of this seemingly once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to help protect your retirement before it's gone. Learn about the tools and features available today that could provide bonuses, potentially adding up to tens of thousands of dollars in additional income when medical needs arise. Schedule your visit with Eric Heckman at Heckman Financial today by calling 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. These opportunities won't last forever, so call now to help protect your future. 800-454-1184.
Hi, I'm Luann Fulmer, and I am here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial, right here in the Silicon Valley area. And we just thank you so much for joining us. So today we're talking about the importance of creating a legacy plan for your retirement and for your family. Eric, why don't you walk us through some of the basic documents that we might need to consider for an estate plan, please?
Yeah. So, most people always talk about a will, and it's always dramatic on TV, the reading of the will, right?
Yeah.
In movies.
Yeah, the movies. Yeah.
But you actually don't do that you actually do that in a court of law. So the problem with a will is the will just tells the court system who should get your money, and then they have to approve it. And there's legal fees and court fees. So for most of us, we don't want to have anything to do with courts. And we don't usually want to pay big money to attorneys. So again, that's only for stuff that's doesn't have a beneficiary designation. So you can put a thing called a POD on a bank account, which is payable on death. Or if it's an investment account, you can do TOD, transfer on death. So POD or TOD. And those basically bypass probate. Again, if your IRA, 401k, annuities, life insurance, all those things have beneficiary designations. Don't gotta worry about court. Yay. So it's really the real estate is when you want to have a trust. The trust, in essence, is it's a revocable trust, meaning you can cancel at any time. But that trust then would say who gets the house and any other real estate items, because those you can't put POD or TOD on or beneficiaries on.
Okay.
The other one that gets kind of confusing is the power of attorney. And so a lot of times when we're talking about the estate plan, we're thinking about ourselves. But man, if you're in your 40s to 60s and you have parents, you really need to be talking to them about this stuff, because of guess who gets to handle a lot of it? You.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is not necessarily your estate and your issues. Lots of times it's going to be your parents' issues. So one confusing thing is, what's the difference between a trust and a power of attorney? Well, I've got a couple of clients right now that, the kids are the ones who are running their money now because they're not able to anymore.
Yeah.
But one of the confusing things is, if you've got a power of attorney, you go, oh, okay, yeah, I can go ahead and move this money. Well, a power of attorney doesn't work for a trust. Power of attorney works for IRAs and other investments, but if it's in a trust, you actually have to change to the new trustee.
Okay.
So it gets a little confusing as, am I signing as trustee? Am I signing as, power of attorney?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a little bit of a, I guess, oddity around that sometimes, and it gets a little confusing. The other hard part is that lots of times it's really a pain to, like, we've got one where we're trying to do his taxes and he didn't get one of the forms. Well, the daughter has to call up, say, I have power of attorney, send in the power of attorney. They record it, they analyze it, then they'll finally send the form just so we can do the tax return.
Oh my.
So that could be a lot of work. And, of course, this is stuff that they're doing on outside of their normal lives, right? So, and then the other big one that you want to have is really sometimes they call durable power of attorney. And what that is that's something that kicks in for two different things. So one is the financial management. So that says, if you can't do 2 activities of daily living, there's some sort of medical issue with you, then that's when that power of attorney would kick in. And then the other one is for healthcare. So, do they resuscitate you? Do they donate organs? All that fun junk,
yeah,
right? That nobody wants to go.
No.
So a lot of times the durable power for healthcare, a lot of times you can actually ask your doctor or, whatever medical group. And a lot of times they'll have those for you. For free lots of times. So, but the one that people forget about is financial management. So, usually if you go off and get a trust, the trust will have all these documents included. So, yeah, you really need to get this set up right, because if not, it's just a mess. Then they have to go to, hire an attorney to get a power of attorney because you can't, do stuff. And can you imagine you being in a house for 30 years and maybe you still have a little bit of a mortgage left, and nobody has the authority to go into your bank account and pay your mortgage, and you might get foreclosed on.
Right. That'd be terrible. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Or that you're not taking out your required minimum distribution from your IRA. Now you're having tax penalty because only that one person's eligible to do that. So, so these are the things that we got to, kind of watch out for and make sure we have, going right. So, it takes a little bit of time and energy, but get these things done.
Exactly. So you got to get that legacy plan. And Eric, that's all part of what you guys do with your retirees. You take them on and you plan out everything from what's your monthly income to strategies for investments, healthcare, tax, and then even the legacy planning.
Yeah, exactly. You have to do, really the income plan starts first. Then you figure out where those investments are. They situated to do that income. What's the tax ramifications, which tax ramifications also go into legacy a lot, right? So who's going to get that money, and which types of money are you spending, and are you trying to leave more to the next generation or not? Healthcare obviously is a big one. How are you paying for it? All these costs, right? And then, sadly, lots of times it's more end of life stuff of making sure you have it all set up in the right places. So, that's one of the things that we want to make sure you have, done. We don't do the wills or trusts here, but we kind of act as the person who sits there and bugs you and gets it done. Right. And then we help. The worst thing attorneys do is they say, here's your big trust. It's like a funnel. And then nothing's in the funnel except for maybe your house. And so if you don't put anything in the funnel, it's a useless document.
Mhm.
So that's where we really kind of jump into action and help people move those assets really into that. Again, if you want to talk more about this or you want to get a lot of our free resources, we've got a lot of great downloads about this and my book, Worry Less Wealth, and even time to talk with us. All you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox, 800-454-1184, or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman. So let's just get to it. What are some ways we can start creating that plan?
Yeah, well, you want to ideally meet with an attorney. If you for some people, maybe not, right? If you've only have IRAs and some bank accounts, you can use beneficiaries and POD and TOD and all that stuff, and really probably get by with that. But once you've got a lot more assets, you've got $1 million or more, you've got obviously, like I said, real estate. That's when you really need to have really ideally some sort of attorney go through it. Yeah, there's some online stuff. The hard part is, is everything going to be done right? I mean, I had a client one time do all this whole thing on her own. She figured out how to do the whole trust, and I swear she must have spent 80 hours on this thing or more, because she kept calling back or kept doing stuff. And I was just like, compared to her hourly rate that she makes and stuff, she could have paid somebody a lot cheaper to get it done.
Aww.
And a lot of times it doesn't need to be that. You can get some fairly decent ones for $500 or $1,000. If you've got any unique situations, like maybe you've got somebody who's got special needs, maybe you've got somebody who's got drug and alcohol problems, so you need to make sure you don't leave them the money. You've got his, hers, and our kids. So some weird situations where somebody might need to leave different amounts to different people. Any of those types of situations, that's when I would say pay a little bit more. Pay $2 or $3 or maybe up to $5,000 to get a really good trust going. I just recently was meeting with somebody who spent 6 years in court battling one of their siblings just to get everything settled, and even had to sue their trust attorney because the things were so messed up. And so you do want to check out your attorney. You do want to make sure you get it right. And, and then anytime there's a life change, you want to make sure you go update that stuff, right? To make sure everything's set up right. And, most trusts and wills always say, the people who come after them. So the grandkids are kind of included, but lots of times you want to name them and such. But so there's a lot to do. Again, we've seen it all. So if you want to set up a time to talk with us, find out a little bit more how this fits into your situation, what's the key things you need to be looking for, feel free to give us a call and we can set up a time to talk. You can do that easily by just texting the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit, 800-454-1184, or book directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Eric Heckman and the team at Heckman Financial understand no matter how the 2024 presidential election shakes out, it's going to have a huge impact on your retirement. It's important that you have a clear understanding of what's at stake with your finances, because as we've already seen, anything could happen. Major election surprises can potentially tip the balance on our economy. And on top of everything else, we also know our current tax rates are going to expire at the end of next year, and they'll go back up. Do you think your finances are ready for all of this? Eric's election stress test can help find out. Schedule yours today with the Heckman Financial Team by calling or texting ELECTION to 800-454-1184. That's ELECTION to 800-454-1184. See how strong your plan really is. Call or text ELECTION to 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, president of Heckman Financial, where it's their mission to get you to and through a worry-less wealth retirement. Now, Eric gets questions all the time. People find out he's a financial advisor, and they ask him all kinds of questions, probably about the market, probably especially about retirement questions, because there's so much involved there. So I know when you're off work, you probably don't feel like you're really off work, do you, Eric?
Yeah, well, there's always people to help, and we always try to help them out with that as much as we can.
What a good guy. Okay. Well, we're going to bring these questions to the airwaves today, some retirement questions. So, first question for you, Eric, is from Brent. And he says, I'm a few years away from retirement, but my mind's buzzing about my son. He just landed his first real job after college, and I couldn't be prouder. I'm looking to help him start his career strong without overstepping. Do you think it's a good idea for me to help him set up a Roth IRA?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got 3 sons myself, so definitely the advice to anybody pretty much under 50. So not just only in their 20s, but anybody under 50, all you should be funding is Roth. Roth 401k, Roth IRA. Max out as much as you can. One issue with Roth IRA is there are income restrictions, and so depending on where you are income wise, at some point you may not be able to do it anymore. So that's kind of another reason for somebody straight out of college to be doing it. But the Roth 401k, which pretty much every company has, if they have a 401k, you usually have the Roth option now. And, that's just the normal, contributions that anybody can do. There is no income restrictions. So yeah, the more money you can get out of the government's hands and the growing on your side, it's huge because, if you put in, $7,000 into a Roth and it grows to $50,000 at retirement because of all those years, it was sitting there, right? That 50 is yours. But you put $7,000 into a traditional IRA, you might save $1,500, $2,000 maybe on your taxes. But now you owe tax on that entire $50,000, and not at today's brackets. At whatever the brackets will be way down the road when their national debt is very likely way, way bigger and larger. So, so if you can get it out of the government's hands, this is really for anybody of any age. You can be converting to a Roth. Anybody, there's no more. Since 2010, there's been no income restrictions on converting to Roth, which means you pay the tax now, which nobody likes to do.
No.
But if you can pay the tax at a lower bracket and then have that money grow tax-free for a very long time, again, it's going to help you out. So go Roth when you can.
Go Roth. I love it. ROTH. So here's the phone number. If you do have questions and you want to come in and see Eric and our team at Heckman Financial and talk to them about converting into a Roth or setting one up, 800-454-1184. That's the number to call. And just so you know, again, if you don't remember, but this meeting is complimentary, okay? Here's another question as we dig into our Wealth Creator mailbag from Jonathan. And he says, I'm thinking about downsizing my home now that I'm retiring. Is it a more efficient choice to buy a smaller place outright or to invest more money and mortgage a new place? Oh, gosh, you probably get this all the time.
Yeah, well, actually, a lot of times I also get, should I not sell my house and just rent it out and then, then have a mortgage to buy another one? Because if you didn't sell it, right, you don't have the cash to buy the new place. And, and there's pros and cons to both ways. There's obviously being a landlord's a whole different issue and, all those stuff. I definitely, kind of almost specialize on accident in helping move people out of the Bay Area because it is so pricey and expensive. And so, I've got clients that have moved across the state and across the country, both. And luckily with Zoom and everything else, they can stay being clients. But
love it.
But it is one of those things that I would say, probably 75-80% of the people who downsize to do this, the whole goal is to not have a mortgage. The goal is just to pay cash for a place. It depends on where you're moving to and what kind of things you're doing. Some people need bigger houses actually in retirement because they want all the bells and whistles and, they want the theater in their house and they want the, huge pool, the big workshop garage, which only comes in with a bigger house, right?
Right.
So, that might be a little bit tougher to do without a mortgage, depending on where you're going and, how much equity you got. But, I think most people prefer just to not necessarily, it doesn't have to necessarily be a smaller place. I mean, I had a client move from here to Lakewood, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver. And his house, I think, is now a 4,000 square foot house just for him. And he sold his 2,000 square foot house here and paid cash for that one. And So yeah, so sometimes it's not smaller, but it's still paid off. So yeah, obviously depends on how much cheaper the area you're moving to is. So,
Right. Yeah.
but then you have to look at the taxes. You got to look at all the other things. So that's definitely something where you want to get some more advice. You want to set up a time to talk with somebody. That's something we can easily do and kind of give you those numbers and give you those options. But one of the things we have set up here is this digital toolbox that not only can you set a time to meet with us, but you can also get a copy of my book, Worry Less Wealth. You can download lots of great little reports that are fast reads, like what's the Social Security dilemma, decision dilemma of when to turn it on. Will your money last as long as you do in retirement? Am I paying too much money in taxes in retirement? All these great things are sitting there waiting for you to be downloaded. So all you have to do is text the word toolbox to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word toolbox 800-454-1184 or download directly at wealthcreatorradio.com.
And we're so happy you're spending part of your day with us. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and this is Wealth Creator Radio. We're digging into our Wealth Creator mailbox today. Another question for you, Eric. This one's from Jennifer. She says, I've recently come into an unexpected inheritance. I'm wondering about ways to invest or what to do with this money. Can you guide me on investment strategies that could help me avoid a hefty tax bill?
Yeah, well, let's see. The first thing you're going to probably do is buy a car. That's what almost everybody does when they inherit money.
That's funny, really?
So, yeah, hopefully not, Jennifer. But
yeah,
I mean, for most people, actually, when you inherit money, it's not typically a large tax bill because there's a magic thing called step up in basis at death, which it means if somebody paid $10 for $100 stock, they'd normally have a huge capital gain if they tried to sell it. But when they pass away, somebody inherits that stock at $100. So there is no more capital gain.
Okay.
Now, depending, I had one client that they held on to the house to get rid of mom's stuff and they didn't want to throw it away. So they had to give it away. They promised her they'd give it away to other people. And it took almost 2 years just to get rid of all the junk in there.
Whoa. Oh my.
And the only weird part is the house went up about $200,000 in value. So when they went to sell it, her and her brother both had to pay tax on $100,000 of taxable gain that had they sold it right away, they wouldn't have had to pay the taxes on the gain, but they wouldn't have had the gain either.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad thing, but so for the most part, you don't typically have a tax bill. Now, one thing you have to watch out for is IRA money. Any retirement money is very, very, very complicated now. So depending on when the person died, you may have to take money out every year. You may not, depending on how old the person was who died, who left you the money. But you only have 10 years to spend it typically, unless that person was close in age, like a sibling. And so there's a lot of different rules, but the general gist of most inherited IRAs nowadays are you've got 10 years to spend it. So, when that person dies 10 years later, that money has to be gone to zero. So it used to be you could spend it out over 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So definitely get some really good advice. Somebody who really knows what they're talking about anytime you're inheriting retirement monies, because of you screw up one piece of paperwork on that and there's no way to fix it. IRS is not nice about that.
Yeah. Dang. Okay. So best thing is for her to come in and talk to you.
Yep,
right.
Sure.
800-454-1184. I think I have time for one more question in our mailbag. This is from Jerome. He says, I'm 68. My wife is almost 60. We want to leave an inheritance for our children, but I've heard so many different possibilities. Wanting to know, is life insurance a good way to do that?
Yeah, life insurance can be a great way to do it. It goes tax-free to the kids and such. So the hard part is if you're 68 and 60, it's gotten a lot more expensive. But there are some specialty types of policies where you just dump money in and they kind of work more like a CD, but then there is a death benefit there. So that way, if you need it, you can take it back. If you don't need it, then they get some larger dollars. Those are usually easier to qualify for too. So there's lots of different options with life insurance. It just matters on how much money you have and how much money you can afford to try to leave to the next generation, right? You want to make sure that you're covered. But one of the best things about most life insurance policies now is they also have long-term care features.
where you can use that while you're living to pay for long-term care. So it might be a great way to protect your kids from them having to help you, pay for long-term care. And if you never need the long-term care, they just get a good inheritance. So, again, there's lots of different options out there. If you did want to set a time to talk with us, it's super, super easy. All you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, that's just texting the word visit, 800-454-1184. Or you can book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will the roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a great run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather the financial storm? Now may be a great time to have your retirement plan inspected. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial at 800-454-1184 now. Eric will examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Eric Heckman of Heckman Financial today at 800-454-1184. That's 800-454-1184. Investment advisory services offered through Heckman Financial Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor.
Hi, I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Eric Heckman, and so happy to have you along with us today. Every week on our show, we talk about challenges and risks that happen in retirement. So it's time now for Eric to give us an example of someone who has experienced one of those obstacles in retirement. We call it a financial fail. Obviously, we want to learn from it and hopefully not do that. Eric, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, well, one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about my profession is most people, when you talk to a financial advisor, they'll say, we don't give tax advice. And then you go to your tax person and they say, well, we don't give financial advice. So it's like, okay, well, when are you two ever going to talk? Because somebody needs to help me.
Yeah.
I don't have a left side of the body and a right side of the body doctor. You need somebody who works on the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And so, what I've seen a lot of issues with is people just not knowing how much of a role the taxes play. In the movie, The Psychology of Retirement that we've been showing, they talk about the fact that the largest expense in retirement, bigger than anything else, even medical costs, is taxes. And why is that? Well, because most people put money in IRAs, 401ks, and they've never paid the tax bill. And so there's a lot of issues around that. I had one client who came to me when he was 70. This was a few years back. When the tax rates were not the tax rates, the required minimum distribution was at 70 and a half then. Now it's 73. But, every time he took more money out of his IRA, his Social Security got taxed more. And, I've had other people where all of a sudden they've said, oh, I want to do this improvement on my house. So we just had somebody doing that. And so they did all this stuff. And of course, like all home improvement projects, it goes over budget, right? It takes too long and costs twice as much. Again, they didn't come to us early enough in retirement or pre-retirement, I should say. So they just had all sorts of IRA and 401k dollars. Well, of course, as we take more and more of that out, they start going up the food chain, if you want to call it that or whatever, in the tax brackets. And then more of your funds get eaten up. And so I see this repeatedly happening where people don't have some tax-free money. I've had some people where we've got those Roth IRAs and we've got some tax-free money, they're able to go get those and not have to pay the tax. I had one client that needed a new truck. He likes to do a lot of, projects and stuff around the house and nothing fancy, but he had $20,000 in his Roth IRA. We were able to use that money tax-free.
Wow.
Had he needed to get that out of his, taxable IRA account, if it wasn't the Roth, he would have needed probably $28,000 to get that same $20,000 net check. So, again, if you have got some tax-free money and some taxable money, then you can be playing around with what bracket you want to be year by year. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of people don't do that. And all they have is just taxable money coming in. And there is no way to plan for that. It's just you pay the tax. And so it's pretty painful. So, again, that's why it's so critical to have a plan. Again, if you want to set up a time to talk with me, just 15, 30-minute phone call, ask whatever questions you have about financial concerns. We can kind of go over that. All you got to do is text the word visit to 800-454-1184. Again, text the word visit, 800-454-1184. And again, you've been listening to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman. I'll be here to help you create wealth in your retirement. So again, if you want to take a time and do that visit with me, 800-454-1184 or book directly online at wealthcreatorradio.com. Thank you for tuning in to Wealth Creator Radio. I'm Eric Heckman, and it's been a pleasure guiding you towards a more confident and secure retirement. Remember, my responsibility is to always do what's right for you, our client. Together, we can cut out that fancy-sounding financial jargon that doesn't help and focus on what truly matters for your financial future. If you're ready to take control of your retirement planning and build a personalized income plan, contact us at 800-454-1184 and text the word toolbox to schedule a complimentary consultation. If you're looking for more resources and tools to build your retirement future, don't forget to check out that Wealth Creator Toolbox, your toolkit for a secure and confident retirement journey. Until next time, retire more and worry less with Wealth Creator Radio.
Information provided during Wealth Creator Radio is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. Eric Heckman offers investment advisory services through Heckman Financial and Insurance Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Any tax advice given as part of this presentation is not intended to be used and cannot be used by the taxpayer for the purpose of avoiding tax penalties or promoting, marketing, or recommending to another party any matter or transaction addressed herein. The views and opinions expressed in the program are not necessarily those of the radio station or its sponsors, and they should not construe as legal, tax, or investment advice. You should always consult the appropriate advisor before making any financial decision.
This radio show is a paid placement.